For almost 10 years, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has presided over a country that has been brought bitterly to its knees. More than 500,000 people have died and more than half of its 17 million population has been displaced, while the number of those rendered disabled, disappeared and dispossessed is nearly countless, and the economy has been crushed to almost non-existence. Yet the 55-year-old leader continues on his family's 5-decade, iron-fisted rule on the broken nation, but his political future and the regime's survival could very well hinge on the U.S. vote come November 3. President Trump and former Vice President Biden are likely to approach Syria and Assad's future in dramatically different ways, with Iranian relations at the centerpiece. And that could ultimately determine Syria's outcome. Many Syrians feel reliant on the Republicans' victory in the upcoming presidential elections because that will mean more siege on Iran, the primary and most dangerous supporter of the Assad regime, with the blockade on Iran being reflected in the effect on its expansion in Syria, surmised Fadel Abdulghany, CEO of the Syrian Network for Human Rights. Without a doubt, we would have noticed a far broader proliferation than the current one without the current U.S. leadership. This was also reflected in Iran's financial and military support for the Syrian regime. On the flip side, Biden has signaled that he would restore the 2014 Iran deal, of which he played a pivotal role in its development as the vice president. In September, the Democratic nominee said he would seek to reengage with Tehran, warning that the country was ever closer to a nuclear bomb under Trump. However, the Islamic Republic's net of neighborhood proxy wars was not explicitly discussed. The Iran issue could have a major impact in a scenario where Biden makes a full-throttle effort to revive the 2015 nuclear deal and decides to accommodate Iran by easing pressure on Assad, but that is hardly a given, said David Adesnik, a senior fellow and the director of research at Foundation for Defense of Democracies. On the other hand, Biden may push back harder against Russia in cases like the vehicle ramming incident last month, which injured 7 U.S. soldiers. But according to Ayman Abdel Nour, a Syrian reformist, defected government advisor and the president of the nonprofit Syrian Christians for Peace, the Syrian diaspora in the U.S. has mixed support for both Trump and Biden. A number of Muslim community leaders held foreign policy Zoom meetings with the Democratic presidential contender in late July and then in August, he said, and several got behind a Syrian Americans for Biden campaign. At first, many Syrians felt optimistic. But in the first paper on his American Arab agenda, there was no mention of Syria, so then the campaign went back and added a Syria paragraph to the bottom. But for many, it wasn't enough. We need more clarification, Nour told Fox News.